nefesh av harachaman, Yedid nefesh av harachaman, Mishochavtecha el ritzonecha, Mishochavtecha la 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 el ritzonecha. Yarutz avtecha kemo ayal, yishtachavei la 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 el hadarecha. Page 128, Shabbat Shalom, everyone. We bring in another beautiful Shabbat. It's actually our last Shabbat of fall. Yedid nefesh av harachaman, Yedid nefesh av harachaman, Mishochavtecha el ritzonecha, Mishochavtecha la 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 el ritzonecha. Yarutz avtecha kemo ayal, yishtachavei la 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 el hadarecha. At the top of the page. Hine matov umanayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov umanayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov umanayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov umanayim, shevet achim gam yachad. If you'll turn back to page 120, we'll find our blessings for lighting our Shabbat candles. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. As we turn to page 130, we'll come to our Psalms of Kabbalat Shabbat as we make our way out of a busy week and into the time of our rest and our peace of Shabbat. Begin with Psalm 95. Lechu neranina l'Adonai, let us sing joyfully to God. Lechu neranina, lechu neranina, lechu neranina l'Adonai. Lechu neranina, lechu neranina, lechu neranina l'Adonai. Naria tzur yishenu, nekadma fanav b'toda. Naria tzur yishenu, bizmirot nuria lo. Lechu neranina, lechu neranina, lechu neranina l'Adonai. Lechu neranina, lechu neranina, lechu neranina l'Adonai. Psalm 96, on page 131. Yismichu hashamayim v'tagel haaretz. The heavens and the earth will be happy. Yiram hayam u'melo'o, the sea as well and all that fills it. As God creates the world and we praise creation, all of creation praises creation, the earth, the heavens, the sea, and all that fill them. 6 lines from the bottom of the page 131. Yismichu hashamayim, Yismichu hashamayim, Yismichu hashamayim, v'tagel haaretz. Yismichu hashamayim, Yismichu hashamayim, Yismichu hashamayim, v'tagel haaretz. Yiram hayam, Yiram hayam, Yiram hayam, melo'o. Yiram hayam, Yiram hayam, Yiram hayam, melo'o. Yismichu hashamayim, Yismichu hashamayim, Yismichu hashamayim, v'tagel haaretz. Psalm 97 at the bottom of page 132. Or zarua lat tzadik ul yishrei lev simcha. If we are righteous and if we are good-hearted, we will be rewarded with light and with happiness. A nice message leading into this upcoming Wednesday night for Hanukkah, a reward of light and happiness. Or zarua lat tzadik ul yishrei lev simcha. Or zarua lat tzadik ul yishrei lev simcha. Or zarua lat tzadik yishrei lev simcha. Ul yishrei lev simcha. Or zarua lat tzadik yishrei lev simcha. Ul yishrei lev simcha. Lai 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 or zarua lat tzadik ul yishrei lev simcha. Or zarua lat tzadik ul yishrei lev simcha. We'll read together at the bottom of page 133 in the English of Psalm 98, a psalm. Sing to Adonai a new song, for God has worked wonders. God's right hand, God's holy arm has won God victory. Adonai has manifested God's victory, has displayed God's triumph in the sight of the nations. God was mindful of God's steadfast love and faithfulness toward the house of Israel. All the ends of the earth beheld the victory of our God. Raise a shout to Adonai, all the earth. Break into joyous songs of praise. We speak of God's victory at this time. On Wednesday night, we'll begin Hanukkah. And we speak of God leading the victory, the Maccabees into victory and into the reward of light and rededication, as the word Hanukkah means. As they re-entered the temple, the Maccabees did exactly what it says in the end of Psalm 99 on page 135. They bowed down in front of God's holy place as they had not been able to do for a few years. And we sing about that moment and all of the other moments where we bow before God with Romemu Adonai Eloheinu. We exalt Adonai our God and bow down in God's holy place, page 135 at the bottom of the page. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu vehishtachavu lehar kosho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu vehishtachavu lehar kosho. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu. Ki Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romemu Adonai Eloheinu Vehishtachavu Lehar Kodsho Romemu Adonai Eloheinu Vehishtachavu Lehar Kodsho. Page 136 and 137, Psalm 29, continuing with our Psalms of praise to lead us through saying goodbye to our week. We read of God's power in the universe in small ways and in large ways. And as we get to page 137, we read the line that the voice of Adonai kindles flames of fire. And as part of the Hanukkah story that we tell in the coming week, we talk about God's influence on us as we rekindle the flames of fire in the Holy Temple and bring light, the light of God's teachings of the Torah to the world. We read together page 136 and 137, a Psalm of David. Ascribe to Adonai, O divine beings. Ascribe to Adonai glory and strength. Ascribe to Adonai the glory of God's name. Bow down to Adonai, majestic in holiness. The voice of Adonai is over the waters. The God of glory thunders, Adonai over the mighty waters. The voice of Adonai is power. The voice of Adonai is majesty. The voice of Adonai breaks cedars. Adonai shatters the cedars of Lebanon. God makes Lebanon skip like a calf, Sirion like a young wild ox. The voice of Adonai kindles flames of fire. The voice of Adonai convulses the wilderness. Adonai convulses the wilderness of Kadesh. The voice of Adonai causes hinds to calve and strips forests bare. While in God's temple all say glory. Adonai sat enthroned at the flood. Adonai sits enthroned sovereign forever. May Adonai grant strength to God's people. May God bestow upon God's people well-being. We sing those last two lines in the Hebrew. Page 137, the last two Hebrew lines. Lai, 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 lai. Lai, 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 lai. Lai, lai, lai. Lai, 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 lai. Lai, 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 lai. Lai, 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 lai. Lai, lai, lai. Lai, 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 lai. Adonai os le'amo yitein yitein. Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom. Adonai os le'amo yitein yitein. Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom. Lai 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 lai. As we turn to page 138 and 139, we bridge ourselves from the week into the holiness and the peace of Shabbat. L'chadodi, come my friends, and let us greet the bride. Let us greet the image of Shabbat. I almost said eat something for Shabbat, but that'll be later on. Later on tonight, maybe some of you will eat more for Shabbat. But we'll greet the bride of Shabbat. Don't we greet the bride and then eat? It's what we do. We're Jews, right? It's all about, I'm thinking more about Hanukkah and all the latkes we're all going to eat in the next week. Right? Page 138 and 139, we'll sing verses 1 and 2 on page 138, verses 5 and 9 on page 139. Ve'adodi likat kala yalalai 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 b'nei Shabbat nekavela. Ve'adodi likat kala yalalai 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 b'nei Shabbat nekavela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad ishmi'anu el hamayuchad. Adonai echad shemo echad v'shem u'tiferet ve'letfilah. V'echadodi likat kala yalalai 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 b'nei Shabbat Kabela, lecha dodi likrat kala, yalala, 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 Shabbat, kabela, likrat Shabbat, lechu v'nelcha, ki mekor ha'bracha, merosh mikedem mesucha, sof ma'aseh b'machshavat tchila. Lecha dodi likrat kala, yalala, 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 ne Shabbat, kabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, yalala, 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 ne Shabbat, kabela. Hitoreri, hitoreri, kiva orel, umi uri, 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 shir daberi, kevod Adonai, alayich niglas, lecha dodi likrat kala, yalala, 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 ne Shabbat, kabela, lecha dodi likrat kala, yalala, 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 ne Shabbat, kabela. We rise, we face the door as we welcome in the image of the Shabbat bride. Boi v'shalom, ateret bala, gam b'simcha uv'tzola, toch emunei am segula, boi chala, lecha dodi likrat kala, yalala, 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 ne Shabbat, mikabela, lecha dodi likrat kala, yalala, 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 ne Shabbat, mikabela. While we're standing, we greeted Shabbat. Let's greet each other. Turn to the people around you. Wish everyone in front of you, behind you, around you, Shabbat Shalom. And for those of you joining us on templeshalom.com live and on our YouTube channel, Shabbat Shalom to all of you as well. Glad to have you with us this evening online. There we go. And again, Shabbat Shalom, everyone. And again, to those of you joining us online, Shabbat Shalom, Shalom to all of you. We find ourselves on page 140, Mizmor Shir L'Yom HaShabbat. Let us sing a song of Shabbat. Tov Lehodot L'Adonai. It is good to give thanks to God and welcome in Shabbat. Mizmor Shir L'Yom HaShabbat. Tov Lehodot L'Adonai. Nizamer L'Shimcha Elyon. Lizamer Leshimcha Elyon. Mizmor Shir Liyom HaShabbat. Tov Lehodot LaAdonai. Lizamer Leshimcha Elyon. Lizamer Leshimcha Elyon. Lahagid Baboker Chastecha. Emunatecha Baleilot. Alei Asor Ve'aleina Ve'lalei Higayon Ve'chinot. Mizmor Shir Liyom HaShabbat. Tov Lehodot LaAdonai. Lizamer Leshimcha Elyon. Lizamer Leshimcha Elyon. Yisimchtani Adonai B'fo'olecha B'ma'aseh Yadecha Aranim. Magadlu Ma'asecha Adonai Me'od Amku Machshevotecha. Mizmor Shir Yom HaShabbat. Tov Lehodot LaAdonai. Lizamer Leshimcha Elyon. Lizamer Leshimcha Elyon. Mizmor Shir Liyom HaShabbat. Tov Lehodot LaAdonai. Lizamer Leshimcha Elyon. Lizamer Leshimcha Elyon. Lizamer Leshimcha Elyon. Lizamer Leshimcha Elyon. The bottom paragraph of the page, still on page 140, we say that the righteous will bloom like a date palm, again bringing those ideas of righteousness, bringing us rewards. We sing Tzaddik Katamar at the bottom of the page. Tzaddik Katamar yifrach ke'erez balvanon yizgei shituli beveit Adonai bechatzrot Eloheinu yafrichu od yenuvun beseiva geshenim vera'ananim yihiyu lehagi ki yashar Adonai tzuri velo avlatabo. We turn to page 144 as we move our way out of our Kabbalat Shabbat and into our Ma'ariv service. Yitkada v'yitkada shmei Rabba Yamad yivrach Yerutev yamlich malchutei B'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayi dechol Beit Yisrael Ba'agala ba'agala uv'izman ka'arivim eru Amen. Yehei shmei Rabba mevarach le'alam u'lamei amaya yitbarach Yitbarach, Vishtabach, Vitpa'ar, Vitroman, Vitnaseh, Vitadar, Vitale, Vitalal, Shemei Dukudesha, Berichu Le'elam, and Kober Chata, Vishir Hata, Tushbechata, V'nechemata, Damiron Be'alma, Vimeru, Amen. We rise for Baruch Hu, page 146. As we call ourselves together to prayer. Lai la lai 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 la lai 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 la lai 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 la lai 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 la lai 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 la lai 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 la lai 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 lai. Baruch Hu et Adonai hamevorach Baruch Adonai can be seated. We continue as we praise creation. Page 149, we read together at the top of the page. Praise to you, Adonai our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and seasons glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, our God, from whom the evening flows. El Chai v'Kayam, Tamid Yimloch Aleinu, Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai, Ha'ma'ariv Aravim. Lai, 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 lai. Lai, 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 lai. We give thanks for the lessons of Torah, the Ahavat Olam, page 150. With an everlasting love, you have given us your loving gift of Torah. Praised are you, God, who loves your people, Israel. Ahavat Olam, Israel, Amcha ahavta, Torah u'mitzvot, Hukim u'mishpatim, Otanu limadeta. Al kein Adonai Eloheinu, Shocheinu v'kumeinu, Nasiach b'chukecha, Smach b'divrei Toratecha u'b'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed. Ki hem chayenu ve'yorech yameinu u'vahem negi yomam v'layla. Ki hem chayenu ve'orech yameinu u'vahem negi yomam v'layla. הם חיים באורח ימים ובהם נגי יומם בלילה. כי הם חיים באורח ימים ובהם נגי יומם בלילה. כי הם חיינו באורח ימינו ובהם נגי יומם בלילה. כי הם חיינו באורח ימינו Uvahem nehegei yomam belayla. Ve'ahavatecha al tasir mimenu le'olamim. Baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael. Praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people, Israel. We continue with the words of Shema, page 152 and 153. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha uv'chol nafshecha uv'chol me'odecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam b'shivtecha b'veitecha uvlechtecha avaderech uvshochbecha uvkumecha ukshartam leod al yadecha v'hayu letotafot b'neinecha Uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha uvisharecha leman tizkeruhu vasitem et kol mitzotai v'yitem kedoshim le'elohechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim v'yot lachem le'Elohim ani Adonai Elohechem Adonai Elohechem emet. Before we turn the page, I want to point out a little reading at the bottom. I hope every once in a while you take a little time to look at some of the readings at the bottom of the page in the Siddur. There's a lot of learning and inspiration in them. And if you look at the very bottom of page 155, you'll see a little teaching. It's not an exact translation of Yoma 86a. Yoma is the section of the Talmud that talks about Yom Kippur. It's not an exact translation from that page, but it's a close proximity to a translation with a little added lesson in it. And it says, Abaye. How many of you have heard of Hillel and Shammai? Raise your hand if you've heard of Hillel and Shammai. At their point in time, they were the two major rabbis. How many of you, before I pointed out his name right now, have ever heard of Abaye? See, he's not as famous. Hillel and Shammai, they got super famous. But Abaye and his counterpart, his name was Rabbah. So we had Hillel and Shammai, they debated each other. Rabbah and Abaye, they debated each other all the time in their time periods. And Abaye would teach this. He would say, spread the love of God through your actions. If you yourself study and help others to do so, if your business activities are decent and trustworthy, what will people say? Have you seen the behavior of one who studies Torah? How beautiful, what a fine person. Tying it into Isaiah, you are my servant Israel, you will be glorified through you. In the Talmud, in this section, it says, if you study Torah and don't act on it, your Torah study is actually an ugly act, is what the Talmud calls it. An ugly act, because you wasted the lesson, is what the Talmud explains. But if you act on those lessons of Torah and act in an ethical and decent and trustworthy way, then your Torah study turns into an act of beauty. Hold on to that thought, because we're going to connect that to this week's Torah portion and the upcoming holiday on Wednesday in just a few more minutes here. But just remember that little lesson from Abaye. We continue on page 157 at the top of the page. Standing on the parted shores of history, we'll read together. We still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together. And as we march together with our ancestors, we sing the words at the top of page 158, which is the prayer in the Siddur that is tied very closely, some believe, to the holiday of Hanukkah. Did you all know that Michamocha? You all thought it was a Passover prayer because Moses was leading the Israelites through the Sea of Reeds, and it is. But it also, according to some scholars, has a connection to this upcoming holiday of Hanukkah coming up on Wednesday night, and that is this. The Maccabees, we know the Maccabees, Maccabee means what? Hammer. But if you ask an Israeli how you say hammer, Kobe, how do you say hammer? Patish. Patish means hammer. There was no guy by the name of Judah Patish. He just didn't exist. And Maccabee has some relationship to a hammer, but the people said Maccabee. Maccabee, where does Maccabee come from? And some scholars believe it comes from this prayer at the top of page 158. If you look at the first line, this comes directly out of the Torah, chapter 15 of Exodus. Micha mocha ba'elim Adonai. Who is like you, O God? What were the Maccabees fighting for? To return to the temple, to rededicate the temple, and to be able to praise God again. Take a look at the first line of the Hebrew. Mi, what's the first letter? Mem. Kamocha, what's the first letter? Kaf. Ba'elim, what's the first letter? Bet. Adonai, the way it's spelled in the Torah, what's the first letter? Mem, Kaf, Bet, Yud. What does it spell? Maccabee. There's a thought that the Maccabees took their name not from being a hammer, but from this was their secret code as to what they were fighting for, that they were fighting to say, who is like you, God, who can deliver us from the place where we were. Is that really where it came from? We don't know, but some rabbis in the Talmud era and some rabbis in the Middle Ages said maybe that's where it comes from. And even if it didn't come from that, I think it's a beautiful lesson to say when we go out into the world and fight for things that are right, we're not just fighting for our own selves, but we're fighting for other people, and we're fighting for things that are correct, and we're fighting for God. Michamocha, page 158. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai. Michamocha ba'elim Adonai. Michamocha ne'edar b'kodesh. Torah tehilot osefele. Torah tehilot osefele. Malachutecha ra'u vanecha. Okei hayam lifnei Moshe u'Miriam. זה אלינו ואמרו, זה אלינו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. יאי לי 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 לי, יאי לי 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 לי, יאי לי 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 לי, יאי לי 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 לי. ונאמר, כי פדה אדוני את יעקב, וגואלו מיד חזק ממנו. ברוך אתה, אדוני, גואל ישראל. As we turn to page 160, we ask God to lie us down in peace, to make us rise again tomorrow to life, and while we sleep, to protect us as we sleep through the night, protect us from enemy and illness and war, from famine, sorrow, and wrongdoing, to spread a shelter of peace over us, over all of Israel, over Jerusalem and over all of the world. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom v'ha'amidenu shomreinu l'chayim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom v'ha'amidenu shomreinu l'chayim. Ushmor tzeitenu uvoenu l'chaim u'shalom me'ata ve'ad olam. Laila 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 laila. Lai la lai 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 la lai lai la lai 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 la lai lai la lai 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 lai. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom v'ha'amidenu shomreinu l'chayim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom v'ha'amidenu shomreinu l'chayim. Let's read together at the top of page 161. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storm. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up waiting to do your will. Baruch atah Adonai Hapori Sukat Shalom Aleinu ve'akol Amo Yisrael al Yerushalayim. Praise to you, Adonai, guardian of Israel, whose shelter of peace is spread over us, over all your people Israel, and over Jerusalem. Page 163. We are a people in whom the past endures, to whom the present is inconceivable, without moments gone by. The Exodus lasted a moment enduring forever. What happened once upon a time happens all of the time. Also a message of Shabbat, that Shabbat drives us forward each and every year, from our ancient history to our current history to our future history. Page 162. Veshamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam b'ritolam. Veshamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam b'ritolam. Ben Yuvein b'nei Yisrael oti le'olam oti le'olam. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam b'ritolam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et ha-shamayim ve'et ha'aretz. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam b'ritolam. U'b'yom hashvi'i Shabbat vayinafash, Shabbat vayinafash, Shabbat vayinafash. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam b'ritolam. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dorotam b'ritolam. As we turn to page 164, we rise for our Amidah. We'll sing the first few paragraphs together, take some time for our own silent prayers, and then close out our Amidah together, asking for the gift of peace. Adonai, sifatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, v'Konei HaKol, v'Zocher Chaste Avot v'Imahot, Umevi Geula livnei v'neihem liman shmo be'ahava. Melech ozer u'Moshiach u'Magen. Baruch atah Adonai Magen Avraham ve'ezrat Sarah. Atah gibor le'olam Adonai Mechaye hakol atah Rav lehoshia. Mashiv haruach u'morid hagashem. Mechalkel chayim bechesed, mechaye hakol berachamim rabim, somech noflim verofei cholim, umatir asurim, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר, מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומידו מלך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה לחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיה הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש. We continue silently through 180 or 181. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki ata hu melech adon lechol hashalom. Ki ata hu melech adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. V'tov be'einecha tivareh et amcha Yisrael bechol eit uvechol sha'ah bishlomecha. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Tasim nasi be'olam. We turn our thoughts to those who are in need of healing. Page 371 in your Siddur, you'll find our Misha Berach prayer for healing. And we ask for healing for Scott Slinger, April, David and Dylan Morris, Chaya Reza Bat Melech Baruch, David Ben Label, Carly Johnston, Corey Chapman, Riley McGee, William Bendon, Darren Black, Naomi Talia Bat Sarah, Gnindil Bat Sima, Don Emmerich, Risha Chana Bat Ezra, Rachel Bat Avraham Vasara, Ilana Liba Bat Elisheva Zahara, Stanley Sachs, Reuven Ben Shlomo Mordechai Tzipora, Rivka Bat Perel, Eileen Hamburg, Lisa Lead, Yishav Zaza, and Marcia Newland. If we have any other names for healing, do we have any on this side of the room? Any names? Any names for healing over here? Any? On this side of the room, any names for healing?
Dylan and Myers Todd.
Thank you. Thank you.
Debbie Cassidy.
Thank you.
Jordan Kwanzaa.
Ari Stroud and Brad Morsad.
Thank you. Thank you. For all those we've named, do we have another one? Yeah. Thank you. For all those we've named and for all those in need, we ask for speedy recovery for each and every one. Yisheberach Avoteinu Kor habracha leimoteinu. May the source of strength bless the ones before us. Help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Misheberach Imoteinu Kor habracha Avoteinu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shleima, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen. A little while ago, we read a lesson from Rabbi Abaye in the Talmud, and it leads us into a thought about this week's Torah portion. As we read this week in the Torah, we are at the story of Joseph being enslaved in Egypt, and he's the section that we'll read at the very beginning of the portion tomorrow morning is when he is in Potiphar's house. And I don't want to ruin it if you haven't seen the movie, but Potiphar's wife hits on Joseph. Joseph says no. She hits on him again. He says no. It happens numerous times each and every day. And finally, there's a moment when no one is around, and she grabs him by the toga or whatever it was that they were wearing in ancient Egypt at the time and says, "Come lie with me." And she pulls on his clothing. And as the Torah tells us, she pulls away his begadim, which means clothing. And so he's apparently naked, and he runs out of the house away from her because he has told her, "Your husband, Potiphar, gave me dominion over the entire house so that I could make everything successful, and I am equal to him in every single way in the household, except he has not given me or you to me as a wife. That's the one thing he's withheld from me. And how can I sin?" He says, "Achet ha'gedolah," the great sin, the biggest sin would be if I were to lie with you in the home. And so he runs out of the home, and she screams, and of course all of the other slaves see him running. It must have been quite a scene. I imagine it looking like every baseball stadium in the mid-1970s when there were streakers all the time on television, right? And he ran away, and then later that evening, Potiphar comes home. Potiphar's wife, whose name in the Torah, anybody know Potiphar's wife's name in the Torah? Her name is Potiphar's wife. That's what the Torah says her name is. In the Midrash, the rabbis made up all of the names. You can look them up later. In the Midrash, you can find names that the rabbis just completely made up out of thin air for all of the women in the Torah who are called the wife of whoever. The rabbis named them all. It's in the Midrash. There's a whole list of them. But to us, she's Potiphar's wife. She says, the slave tried to have his way with me, and he gets jailed. It's interesting that the Torah never tells us that Joseph protested. It never tells us that Potiphar, who handed his entire household over to Joseph to take care of it and to run it, never said, you know, Joe, come here a minute. We need to have a little chat. Never happened in the Torah. I didn't do it. Never happened in the Torah. She makes the accusation. He goes to jail. We know it's a setup because he needs to get into the Pharaoh's home so that he can become the protector of Egypt during the famine that's going to happen. But at this moment in the story, we don't know this. We just know that he didn't commit the crime, and yet he goes to jail for the crime. And why did he go to jail? He told us, I cannot commit this great sin. This is the reason it can't happen, because it would be a great sin, and I cannot sin before God. We read from Abaye that if we learn lessons of Torah and we live them, then our lessons of Torah become beautiful lessons. And clearly Joseph had, while the lesson is actually in the Torah, Joseph understood this bit of Torah even before it was written down, because Joseph's father and grandfather and great-grandfather had these relationships with God, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, God of Abraham, God of Isaac, and God of Jacob. And it got passed down from generation to generation about how we should be tzaddikim, righteous people, which leads us at least 1,000, 1,500 years later, to another time of the Maccabees. 167 to 160 BCE, roughly. And we know that the Maccabees fought a righteous fight to return to the temple, to rededicate the temple so that they could pray before God and learn Torah and teach lessons to the next generation. We tell this story of the oil that was supposed to last for 1 day and lasted for 8 days. If you were at my Latka class on Sunday night, you know the real story of that oil, but there are children present, so I won't say it now. But the oil reminds us of the miracle that happened, and the miracle is us. The miracle is that we survived, and I will tell you this. I'm not sure that the miracle of Hanukkah happened in the time of the Maccabees. I actually think the miracle of Hanukkah really happened 3 generations after the Maccabees. Why do I think that's when the miracle happened? Well, it's the lesson of Abaye. If we learn the lessons of Torah and live them, then our Torah learning becomes beautiful, and we make the world a better place. But here's part of the story that we usually don't talk about in our religious schools, and frankly, we don't talk about it in adult education either. But we should probably know about the Hanukkah story, and that's this. The Maccabees rededicated the temple. We know this. The Maccabees relit the menorah in the temple. We know this. The Maccabees reestablished sacrifice in the temple. We know this. The Maccabees prayed before God. We know this. But the other thing that you may not know is that 2 generations after Judah, 2 generations after the righteousness of Judah, who took his Torah lessons and lived them in a good way, the family of the Maccabees were the most corrupt leadership in the history of the Jewish people. They were skimming money from the tithes that were going to the temple. They were increasing the fees for Pidyon Haben, for the redeeming of the firstborn son. They were stealing sacrifices brought to the temple by the people. They were ultimately corrupt. Only 2 generations after the Maccabees were ultimately righteous. And so why do I think that the miracle of Hanukkah was 3 generations after the Maccabees? Because we are here today. We should have been wiped off the map by the Seleucid Greeks, but they didn't wipe us off the map. The Maccabees won. But then the grandchildren of the Maccabees were so corrupt that they completely destroyed the Jewish people in their time. Or so it was thought. Because in the next generation, they disavowed their parents and they came back to teaching Torah. They came back to teaching the things that would eventually lead, after the destruction of the Second Temple, into the creation of the Mishnah and into the creation eventually of the Talmud. The miracle of Hanukkah, there's that oil story. The miracle of Hanukkah, the Maccabees won the war. They were outnumbered probably, history books tell us 10-1. History books also tell us that George Washington chopped down a cherry tree. They probably weren't outnumbered 10-1. They probably were outnumbered 3 or 4-1 is what the actual research looks like. So they were outnumbered. But the books that tell us 10-1, 100-1, I've even seen some religious school books that say the Maccabees were outnumbered 1,000-1. I'd like to talk to the author of that book sometime and tell them we shouldn't lie to the kids like that. But probably 3 or 4-1 was the real number. And they won the war. It was a miracle. The temple was able to be rededicated, and Jews came back into Jerusalem and brought sacrifices and gathered together as a Jewish people. Another miracle. But I think the bigger miracle of Hanukkah might have been 3 generations later. Because after the Maccabees, grandchildren became the most corrupt leadership in the time of the Jewish people. The next generation returned. The next generation decided that they were not going to let the Jewish people die off because their parents weren't righteous. They decided in their time to be righteous. Abaye said, if we take Torah learning and then we live out the righteousness of that Torah learning, we bring light into the world. Joseph, in our Torah story this week, brings light into the world by going to jail. Why did he go to jail? The Kabbalists say it's because in order to reach the heights, you have to first go to the depths. If you know anything about any of the anonymous programs, Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, Overeaters Anonymous, all of those, they'll tell you the same thing. Before you can strive to get to the heights, you need to hit the lows. And the Kabbalists said that in order for Joseph to truly become the leader who saved not only Egypt, but also his family and the Israelites from the famine, in order to reach those heights, he had to get to the lows. And the lows were not enough that he was a slave in Potiphar's home. The low would be that he would be thrown into the depths of the Pharaoh's jail. And then he could leave and reach the heights and bring the light of Torah back out of those lows. If we follow Joseph's example, if we followed the example of the Maccabees, not their grandchildren, but yes, their great-grandchildren, if we listen to the lesson of Abaye, as we come into Hanukkah, that we call Chag HaUrim by one of its names, the festival of light. We can shine that light out into the world. Someone in the congregation sent me a little meme earlier today. It had a picture of a menorah with all of the candles burning on it, And underneath the menorah, it said, the Hanukkah menorah is a symbol to tell the Chinese delivery guy where to deliver on December 25th. But it's also a symbol of light. And we're told that we're supposed to light the menorah and put it in a place where it can be seen. The Talmud eventually says, in the Babylonian Talmud, it tells us that we should put the light in our courtyard or in our window. If you have draperies, please don't put it in your window. But put it in a place where it can be seen. Perhaps not only by you and your family, but anybody who might be walking by or driving by on the street. Because the Talmud says that the light of the menorah is to publicize the miracle. And if we light the menorah and then we hide it off in a place where it can't be seen, we don't publicize the miracle. And what's the miracle that we're publicizing? It's light. But what light are we publicizing? The light of Torah that shines out from us because we are the miracle. That after Joseph went to jail, the Jewish people survived to shine the light of Torah. That after 400 years of slavery, the Jewish people survived to shine the light of Torah. That after the Maccabean revolt, the Jewish people survived to shine the light of Torah. That after the Holocaust and after the pogroms and after every disaster and every evil that came our way, including October 7th, 1 year ago, after every evil, the miracle of Hanukkah that we live out every day is that the Jewish people survive. And not just that we survive, but that we take that light that's represented by Shabbat candles, and the light that's represented by the Chanukiah or the Hanukkah menorah, and the light of Torah that's in our souls, and let it shine out into the world. So what's the best thing to do on Hanukkah? Learn a little Torah, and then let that Torah shine out from within you, out into the world. So not only does that menorah publicize the miracle, but you become one of the candles of that menorah who publicize the miracle as well. We start Wednesday night. May we all be an example. May we all be the publicity for the miracle of Hanukkah in the holiday that we're about to celebrate. Amen. We come to the closing prayers of our service. We turn to page 586. The very bottom of the page is we'll all rise for Aleinu. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, l'teit gedula liotzer b'reishit, shelo asanu kol goyei ha'aratzot, velo samanu kimishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkeinu kahem, v'gor aleinu kechol hamonam, va'anachnu korim umishtachavim umodim lifnei melech malchei hamelachim hakadosh baruch hu shehu noteh shamayim ve'yoser haaretz umoshav yikaro b'shamayim mima'al ushkinatu zo Begove meromim, hu Eloheinu einod, emet malkeinu efesulato, kakatuv betorato, v'yadata hayom b'shevota elevavecha, ki Adonai hua Elohim, Bashamayim mima'al ve'al ha'aretz mitachat ein od. The middle of 590. Ki amalchut shelcha hi olamei atimloch b'chavod kakatuv b'toratecha Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed v'ne'emar v'ya Adonai le'melech al kol haaretz bayom hahu Yeh Adonai Echad. Ushemo, Ushemo, Ushemo Echad. Ushemo Echad. We can all be seated. In our art sites this week, we recall the memories of Joel Schneider, Jerry Black, Martha Drossman, Maxell Silver, Leo Pick, Max Oldbaum, Annette Lerner, Judy Salzman Barnes, Raymond Schatz, Sam Manvitz, Sharon Friedman, Dee Dee Keslassi, Adil Hoffman, Baruch Gang, Ben Levin, George Goldberg, Henrietta Selig, Jonas Rosenthal, Leah Bain, Sarah Hauptman, Baruch Gang, Harry Bleiberg, Jenny Faber, Joseph Engel, Robert Solomon, Robert Maldigan, and Sidney Gritz. Are there any other yard sites that anyone is observing this week? Yehiyu zichronam levracha, may their memories be an eternal blessing. We ask mourners to rise and those whose custom it is to stand with them. As we turn in our Siddur to page 598, and in their memory, we sanctify God's name. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, be'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, ba'agala v'zman kari v'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mavorach leolam ulmei almaya, v'yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shmei d'kudisha b'richu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata ta'amiran be'alma v'yimru amen. Yehei shalama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. Osei shalom b'mromav huya aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. Please be seated. Before we bring our service to a close, we'll invite our congregational president, Brent Mello, to share a few announcements with us of things upcoming at Temple Shalom.
Thank you, Rabbi. Shabbat Shalom. It's a great time to be a member of Temple Shalom. If you are joining us for services this evening, welcome. Please introduce yourself if you haven't already met everyone. December has a lot of opportunities available for fun and learning. Save some date items for you. Little London Winds is going to be here this Saturday, the 21st, starting at 7 o'clock. I understand we have 260 people or so registered, so it may be a standing room only crowd, but that's going to be great. More information on the temple website. You might have noticed in the back we're having a Judaica fair that started today and will run through Thursday the 26th. All items donated will support Temple Shalom, so come find your new treasures there. And our traditional first night of Hanukkah celebration and community candle lighting is this Wednesday, December 25th at 6 o'clock. Register at templeshalom.com. The board of directors, you may have heard or seen in the bulletins, is looking to create a firearms policy for Temple Shalom, and we are looking for input from members before creating such a policy. We have 3 town hall feedback sessions, one on Sunday, January the 5th, one on Thursday, January 23rd, and another on Sunday, January 26th. 2 are in person, one is by Zoom, and you can RSVP to the sessions on the temple website, but we'd love to hear from you if you have input to share. Hammer Kaz at Temple Shalom is having a parent breakfast meeting this Sunday, January the 5th at 9:30 a.m. To 10:30 while the kids are in school. This is the same Sunday, which is the first town hall meeting for the firearms policy from 10 to 12. Again, register at templeshalom.com. Our Boker Tov Sunday Club has a bunch of events coming up on January 12th. Our very own Mike Unger will be the speaker on hot topics in competitive athletics. You can register on our website. Alan Davidson, Elliot Cohen are interested in starting a pickleball Havara at Temple Shalom, and you can find more information on the website. The first meeting is proposed for Sunday, January 19th from 11 to 1 at Springs Pickleball. You might have also seen in the weekly bulletin that Mahjong is back in season for those interested, and you can get your Mahjong cards from Karen Kaplan-Wise by January 31st. There's large print versions available as well. And I'm happy to report that we met our goal for our Kol Nidre appeal, so you will probably stop hearing us talk about it during announcements, but if you'd still like to give, it will stay open for a while longer. Thanks to everybody who has supported our security fund to date. And if you know any members who are ill or hospitalized or are suffering a loss, please contact the rabbi or the temple office so we can look after them. And thank you to our Oneg mavens for this evening who contributed to our Oneg. Yeah, Danny, you got something to add?
Yeah, January 19th is the next concert in the chamber music series. The last concert featured the music of Ofer Ben Holtz. This concert will be woodwinds, and it's being put on by the impresarios, the Shapiros, so it's going to be great. So January 19th, any other announcements? Thank you, Father.
Shabbat Shalom. To get us in the mood for Hanukkah upcoming, if you'll turn into the near the back of your book, page 669. The very bottom of the page, we'll sing a little Hanukkah song to end our service to get us in the mood for the upcoming Hanukkah celebration. Oh Hanukkah, come light the menorah. Let's have a party, we'll all dance the hora. Gather round the table, we'll give you a treat. Sevi, won't you play with and latkes to eat? And while we are playing, candles are burning low. One for each night, they shed a sweet light to remind us of days long ago. One for each night, they shed a sweet light to remind us of days long ago. Oh Hanukkah, a festival of joy, a holiday, a jolly day for every girl and boy. Spin the whirling cradles all week long, eat the sizzling latkes, sing a happy song. Now light them, tonight them, the flickering candles in a row. Retell the wondrous story of God's eternal glory and dance by the candles' cheering glow. Retell the wondrous story of God's eternal glory and dance by the candles' cheering glow. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Please join us in the back for Kiddush and Motzi. For those of you at home, enjoy Kiddush and Motzi at home, and we'll see you all soon. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. All righty. Everybody grab a Kiddush cup. Good.
New strings?
No, I need to put new strings. Vayi Erev Vayivoker Yom HaShishi Vayichu L'Shamayim V'Aretz Kol Tzava'am V'Echol Elohim B'Yom HaShvi L'To Asher Asa V'Yishbot B'Yom HaShvi Mikom L'To Asher Asa V'Yivarech Elohim Et Yom HaShvi V'Kidesh Oto Kivo Shabbat Mikom L'To Asher Bara Elohim La'asot Savri Chaverai Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Borei Puri HaGafen Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher kichanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu zikaron l'maaseh v'reishit ki hu yom techila l'mikra kodesh zecher l'tziyat mitzrayim kivanu v'acharta v'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim V'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava uvratzon inchaltanu baruch atah Adonai mikadesh hashabbat. Okay. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. Shabbat shalom, everyone. You can come on over and grab a little bit of challah. Take on that side, I'll cut over here.
2 to 5